One introduction. Imagine a sound. It is a howl, like a wolf's howl, but different. Nobody on Earth has heard this sound for thousands and thousands of years. For more than 13,000 years, the planet was quiet from this special sound. This sound belonged to the dire wolf. Dire wolves were large wolf-like animals that lived a very long time ago, but then they all disappeared. They became extinct. This means there were no dire wolves left anywhere in the world. Until now, maybe things are changing. There is a company working on this change. It is called Colossal Biosciences. This company is based in America. Colossal Biosciences uses science, especially genetics. Genetics studies the special instructions inside all living things like plants and animals. These instructions decide how living things look and grow. The company wants to use these instructions to bring back animals that are extinct. They hope this work can also help animals that are in danger today. Bringing back extinct animals is called de-extinction. Now, Colossal Biosciences has shared some very big news. They announced that new dire wolf pups have been born. This is the first time in about 13,000 years that dire wolf pups are alive on Earth. These young animals are the result of the company's work. They are real and they are growing bigger. People outside the company are seeing these pups for the first time. It is a very important moment. How was this possible? How can scientists bring back an animal that disappeared so long ago? It was not easy. It needed special work and new science ideas. Scientists needed information from dire wolf bones found from the past. They also needed help from animals that live today, like modern wolves. The next chapters will explain the different steps taken. We will look closely at the science used by Colossal. We will learn about the original dire wolves and these new pups. What does it mean for our world to have dire wolves again? Is bringing back extinct animals a good thing? Some people feel very excited about this. They think it could help nature. Other people have questions. They wonder if it is right to do this. This story will explore how the dire wolf pups were created. It will also look at the different views people have about this project, trying to understand all sides. 2. The old dire wolf. Long ago, a different kind of wolf lived on Earth. This animal was the dire wolf. It was a real animal that lived many thousands of years ago, not just an animal from stories. These wolves walked the land for a very long time before they disappeared. Dire wolves lived during the last ice age. This was a very cold time in Earth's history, when large sheets of ice covered parts of the world. They lived mainly in North America and South America. Their homes were often open places like grasslands or plains and maybe some forests. They lived alongside other famous Ice Age animals like giant sloths, mammoths, and saber-toothed cats. What did the dire wolf look like? We know about them because scientists found their old bones. These bones are called fossils. The fossils show that dire wolves were very big and strong animals. They were heavier and had stronger bones than the gray wolves we know today. An adult dire wolf could weigh up to 150 pounds or maybe even more. They were also long, perhaps nearly 6 feet from their nose to the end of their tail. Their teeth were very large and strong, good for catching big animals and crushing bones. Some studies suggest their fur might have been different too, perhaps a lighter color than many gray wolves. Although dire wolves look a bit like gray wolves, they were a separate type of animal. Think of them as distant cousins to today's wolves, not direct ancestors. They were on a different branch of the wolf family tree. Key differences were their bigger size and heavier build. Their skulls and teeth were also different, made for a powerful bite. Scientists also think the sounds they made, like their howls, might have been different from the howls of gray wolves. These features made them unique. Sadly, dire wolves are no longer alive. They became extinct. This means the very last dire wolf died about 13,000 years ago. This was near the end of the Ice Age. Many other large animals from that time also disappeared. Why did they go extinct? Scientists have different ideas. Maybe the climate changed too quickly for them. Maybe the large animals they hunted died out. Or perhaps they faced competition from other animals like gray wolves or early humans. It was likely a mix of reasons. The dire wolf was a fascinating, large predator from the Ice Age. Fossils tell us it was bigger and stronger than modern wolves, with special features for its time. Learning about the original dire wolf helps us understand what made this animal special before it disappeared from the world thousands of years ago. 3. Finding old bones. To bring back the dire wolf, scientists first needed its genetic information. This information is DNA. DNA is like an instruction book for building an animal. The best place to find old DNA is in the remains of dead animals, like bones or teeth. So the search for old dire wolf parts began. Finding very old bones with usable DNA is not easy. Over thousands of years, DNA breaks down into small pieces. It becomes damaged and hard to read. Old bones can also get mixed with DNA from bacteria or the people handling them. Scientists needed special samples where the dire wolf DNA was protected. After searching, scientists found two important pieces. One piece was a bone about 13,000 years old. This bone still had some dire wolf DNA inside. The second piece was even older. It was part of an inner ear bone from a dire wolf that lived 72,000 years ago. Inner ear bones are very hard. This helps protect the delicate DNA inside for a very long time. These two fossils were very valuable. Getting the ancient DNA out of the fossils was the next difficult step. This is careful work. Scientists worked in extremely clean labs. They wore special suits, masks, and gloves. This stopped modern DNA from mixing with the tiny amount of old dire wolf DNA. They carefully drilled the bone samples to get powder. From this powder, they used special chemicals to gently take out the small, broken pieces of dire wolf DNA. Once they had the DNA pieces, scientists read them. This process is called sequencing. Special machines read the order of the chemicals in the DNA fragments. It is like putting the letters of an old, torn instruction book back in order. Because the DNA was very old and broken into millions of bits, this was complex. But the scientists were successful. They put together two complete dire wolf DNA instruction books called genomes. Having two genomes helped confirm the DNA sequence was correct. Getting these two dire wolf genomes was a huge success. Now the scientists had the genetic code of the ancient animal. They could start to compare it carefully with the DNA of wolves living today. This comparison would show them exactly how the dire wolf was different. 4. Changing the wolf code. Scientists now had the DNA information from the old dire wolf bones. This information is like a set of instructions for building and running a body. This instruction set is called DNA. The next step was to understand these instructions very well. They needed to know exactly how the dire wolf DNA was different from the DNA of wolves living today, especially the gray wolf. Gray wolves are related to dire wolves, but they are not the same. They carefully looked at the two complete sets of dire wolf DNA instructions they got from the fossils. They used computers to put this information next to the DNA information from many other kinds of modern wolves. This allowed them to compare everything side by side. They searched for parts of the DNA code where the two dire wolves were the same as each other. But these parts also had to be different from all the modern wolves. It was like finding secret notes shared only between the two old wolves. Imagine looking at two very old instruction books and comparing them carefully to many newer instruction books for a similar machine. The scientists were looking for special instructions only found in the old books. They successfully found these special parts in the DNA. This gave them a list of genes that made the ancient dire wolf unique. Genes are small sections of the DNA instructions. Each gene usually controls one or more things about an animal, like its fur color, its height, or how its voice sounds. The main goal was not to make a perfect, exact copy of the old dire wolf. That might be impossible. Instead, the plan was to bring back the most important features, the main characteristics that made the dire wolf special. They wanted to carefully change modern gray wolf DNA to include these old features. These special features helped the dire wolf survive and play its part in the world where it lived long ago. Using what they learned from the DNA comparison, the scientists chose 14 important genes in the gray wolf's DNA. Genes carry the instructions for how a body grows and works. They then made 20 specific changes to the instructions written within these 14 selected genes. They did this careful work on tiny cells taken from gray wolves in a laboratory. These changes might sound small, just 20 changes in total, but the scientists expected them to create big, noticeable differences in the new animals. They targeted specific results. The scientists wanted the new wolves to have certain dire wolf features. One goal was for them to have a white coat, like some old pictures and ideas suggest dire wolves might have had. They also wanted them to grow very large, much bigger than today's gray wolves. Another important goal was for the wolves to make the special sounds, the deep howls, that real dire wolves probably made thousands of years ago. Changing the DNA code in these specific ways was the key step towards creating animals that looked and sounded more like the ancient dire wolf. This careful work changed the gray wolf's instructions to include important parts of the old dire wolf code. 5. The first pups. Scientists had finished changing the gray wolf DNA code. The next step was to use this special code to create new life. First, they needed egg cells, usually taken from female dogs. An egg cell normally contains the DNA plan from the mother. But the scientists needed to use the dire wolf DNA plan, so they carefully removed the original dog DNA from inside each egg cell. This left the egg cells empty, ready for the new code. Then the scientists put the changed DNA, the one with dire wolf instructions, into these empty egg cells. Once the new DNA was inside, the cells began to work. They started to divide, making more cells. They grew and developed into tiny embryos. An embryo is the very first stage of an animal's life, like a tiny seed ready to grow. These embryos were special because they carried the genetic instructions to grow into animals with dire wolf features. The plan for a white coat, large body, and maybe even the dire wolf howl was inside them. These tiny embryos needed a safe place to grow into pups. They needed to be inside a mother's body. The scientists chose female dogs to help. These dogs acted as surrogate mothers. A surrogate mother is an animal that carries and gives birth to babies for another. The babies are not genetically hers. The team chose large dogs hound mixes for this important job. Why large dogs? Because original dire wolves were big. The scientists were not sure how large the embryos would grow. Using large dogs helped make sure the surrogate mothers stayed safe and healthy during the pregnancy. The scientists took great care of these mother dogs. They carefully placed the dire wolf embryos inside them. Everyone at the company watched and waited with hope. Then the big news arrived. On October 1st, 2024, two pups were born. They were healthy baby boys. The team was very excited. They named the pups Romulus and Remus after famous brothers from an old Roman story who were looked after by a wolf. This birth was a huge step for the project. A few months passed. Then in January 2025, another pup was born from a different surrogate mother. This one was a healthy girl. She was named Khaleesi. She joined Romulus and Remus as their younger sister. These three pups, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, are the first animals similar to dire wolves born in about 13,000 years. They are healthy and growing well. They are still young pups now, but when they become adults, they will be impressive animals. Scientists expect them to grow quite large, about 6 feet long from their nose to the end of their tail. They will likely weigh around 150 pounds. This large size was a key feature of the ancient dire wolves that disappeared long ago. The birth of these pups shows that the science worked as planned. 6. A safe place to live. The new dire wolf pups, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, are very special animals. Some people might imagine them running free in today's forests like wolves did many thousands of years ago. However, this is not the plan for these pups. Colossal Biosciences, the company that brought them back, will not release these animals into the wild environment. They believe this is not the best or safest choice right now. The world today is very different from the time of the original dire wolves. Releasing them could create problems. The pups might not know how to survive in the modern wild. Also, scientists are not sure how they would affect the plants and animals living there now. So the company decided on a different, carefully managed future for them. So where will the dire wolf pups live? They are going to have a special, protected home. It is a very large piece of land prepared just for them. This big area is about 2,000 acres. It is difficult to imagine how big that is, but it gives them a huge amount of space to live, run, and explore. To keep the dire wolves safe inside, there is a strong fence all around the land. This fence also stops other people or animals from getting into their home. Colossal Biosciences wants to protect these unique animals extremely well. For this reason, the company is keeping the location of this special home a secret. They do not want everyone to know where the preserve is. This secrecy helps make sure the pups can live peacefully and safely. They can grow up away from unwanted attention or any possible danger. Inside this large, fenced home, the dire wolves will have very good living conditions. The company wants them to live comfortably. The 2,000 acres provides lots of room, which is important for large animals like these. The land inside is kept like a natural place for wolves. There might be trees, open spaces, and safe areas where they can dig and make dens. Dens are like natural, underground homes where wolves sleep, rest, and feel secure. For extra comfort, there is also a special building. This is like a hut or shelter. The wolves can use it to hide from very bad weather, such as heavy rain or strong winds. The pups will also receive excellent medical care. If one of them gets sick or injured, help is available immediately. Veterinarians, who are animal doctors, are ready to help 24 hours a day, every single day. The team at Colossal believes these dire wolves are extremely fortunate animals. They feel the pups will have a wonderful and safe life in their protected home, with everything they need to stay healthy and live well. This secure preserve will be their home for their entire lives. 7. Is it a good idea? Bringing back animals like the dire wolf is exciting for some people, but it also makes many people ask important questions. Is this kind of science a good idea? What problems could happen later? People who study right and wrong in science have worries. These experts are called bioethicists. They think carefully about projects like making new dire wolves. A big worry is about changing nature. Some people say this work is like playing with nature. Nature is very complex. It is like a giant puzzle with many, many pieces. It works in ways that are hard for us to understand completely. Changing one small part might affect many other parts in ways we do not expect. Making changes to an animal's genes might cause problems that nobody planned. Genes do not just do one job, they often control many different things in an animal's body. If scientists change a gene to make a dire wolf bigger, that same gene might also affect its health in a bad way. We might make animals that have many medical problems. They might suffer because of these genetic changes. It is very difficult to know all the effects before they happen. What about the environment? The company plans to keep the new dire wolves in a special, safe place. But changing animals like this still makes some people nervous. Could these changes accidentally make an animal that is too strong? Could it be different in a dangerous way? Some worry about making a kind of super animal that could escape and harm other wildlife. This could change the natural balance. This is a serious thought. We often see stories in books or movies about bringing back old animals. In many of these stories, things go very wrong. These are just stories, but they make us think about the real dangers. They help us ask if we are ready for this kind of power. They remind us to be very careful. So is bringing back the dire wolf good or bad? People have different opinions. Some see the science as helpful and exciting. Others feel it is too risky. They think we should not change life in this way. They believe we need to think very, very carefully about the results before we continue. Understanding all sides of this question is important as this science moves forward. 8. Helping animals today. Colossal Biosciences has more big plans after the dire wolves. They are working on other animals that disappeared long ago. They hope to bring back the woolly mammoth maybe by the year 2028. They also want to work on the dodo bird and the Tasmanian tiger. Why do this work? A Colossal says it is not just about seeing these old animals again. They believe we need new tools and new science to help protect nature today. They think their work can help conservation. Conservation is the job of saving animals and their natural homes. They hope this science can also inspire people. They also think bringing back some animals might help the environment in the places where they used to live. Colossal says the science they use can help animals that are alive now but are in danger. Many types of animals are endangered. This means there are not many of them left in the world. Earth could lose 30% of its different types of animal genes by the year 2050. Sometimes, when there are very few animals of one type, they lose genetic diversity. This means their genes become too similar. This similarity can make the group unhealthy. This problem is sometimes called a genetic bottleneck. A Colossal used technology learned from their projects to help the red wolf. Red wolves are endangered in North America. There are very few left. Using cloning, Colossal created 4 new red wolf pups. These pups add important new genes to the small red wolf group. This helps make the species stronger and healthier for the future. This shows how the technology can be used right now for animals that need help. But not everyone thinks bringing back extinct animals is the best way to spend time and money. Some experts worry about using resources for these big projects. They say we should focus all our help on the animals that are endangered today. There are many dangers facing animals right now. A big problem is losing habitats. Habitats are the natural homes where animals live. People change land for farms, cities, or other uses. Sometimes natural areas like national parks are threatened. For example, some people want to drill for oil in these protected places. This can destroy the places where animals live. Protecting these places costs money. These experts say there is not enough money for current conservation work. They believe we should use all available money and effort to protect existing species and the places they live first. Colossal sees a future where technology helps us fix some damage humans have done. They want a future Earth with many different kinds of animals, a biodiverse planet. They believe their work creates important new tools for this future. However, people have different opinions on the best path forward for helping animals and the planet.